Hey, good afternoon. Hey, Keen. Just in time for your bedtime. So sorry I've been away for weeks.
No, I think I haven't read for 2 weeks. I've been a little bit busy with IRL stuff and also um
Dealing with some stuff.
internal stuff.
But feeling a little bit better now. So I don't want to be reading when I don't feel good. So, cause I think that's what made me hate spring snow. But I can't tell. I don't want to go back to the spring snow. Anyway, it's close to your bedtime. It's time for me to put you to sleep. Lip balm, very important when you're reading for hours. Okay, so today, as the title of the stream said, we are reading part 3 of The Buried Giant. And part 3 is so much more shorter than what part 2 and part 3 was. So I reckon it will be around 2 hours of reading, but I cannot be sure. It really depends. So, get your snacks, get your favorite drinks, tea, coffee, whatever. And we shall start reading in a bit. Yeah. I think DM is helping me out with Party Finder. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Maybe I'll change. I should change. Yeah. I don't really want her hovering here. I thought she's independent. Apparently she's not. Unless I change my title to Mametier. What's a good one? What's a good minion for a medieval fantasy? Sure, Monta. Sometimes I forget what I have. I just got a puffin the other day. I have so many minions. I can't. Ah, dragon would be great. Hell yeah, let's do dragon. Hell yeah. Okay, there you go. Alright. I think maybe they'll mention about the dragon. The she-dragon in part 3, maybe. We'll see. But I think they're gonna close the book with the she-dragon in the fourth part, which is the end of the book. But anyway, listen, guys. Today our mission is to finish up part 3, and then we still have part 4. And I think if on Friday, if I'm free, I'll read on Friday and finish up the book, and then we read the next book the next time. Alright. Today we are reading The Buried Giant Part 3, and this chapter doesn't have a chapter number, but it goes with Gawain's first reverie. I love the word reverie. FYI. Gawain's first reverie. Let's go. Those dark windows. Sorry. Oh my god. I already fuck out in the first sentence. That's how shit I am. Sorry. Gawain's first reverie. Those dark widows. For what purpose did God place them on this mountain path before me? Does he wish to test my humility? Is it not enough he watches me save that gentle couple, the wounded boy, also slay a devil dog, sleep barely an hour on dew-soaked leaf before rising to learn my tasks are yet far from done, that Horace and I must set off again, not down, to some sheltering village, but up another steep path beneath a grey sky. Yet, he placed those widows there in my way, no doubt about it, and I did well to address them cautiously. Even as they sank to foolish insults and throwing dumps of earth at Horace's hindquarters, as though Horace could be panicked into an unseemly gallop, I gave them not so much as a backward glance, speaking instead into Horace's ear, reminding him we must bear all such trials well, for a far greater one awaited us up in those distant peaks where storm clouds now gathered. Besides, those weathered women with their flapping rags were once innocent maidens. Sorry. Besides, those weathered women with their flapping rags were once innocent maidens, some possessing beauty and grace, or at least the freshness that will often serve as well in a man's eye. Was she not that way, the one I sometimes remember, when there stretches before me as much land, empty and companionless, as I could ride on a dreary autumn's day? No beauty was she, yet delightful enough for me. I only glimpsed her once, when I was young, and did I even speak to her then? Yet she returns sometimes in my mind's eyes, and I believe she has visited me in my sleep, for I often awake with a mysterious contentment, even as my dreams fade from me. I felt that lingering joys of such a feeling as Horace woke me this morning, stamping the soft forest ground where I had lain down after the night's exertions. He knows full well I no longer have the old stamina, that after such a night it is no easy thing for me to sleep but a short hour before setting off once more. Yet, seeing the sun already high over the shady roof of the forest, he would not let me sleep on. He stamped his feet until I rose, chainmail complaining. I cursed his armor more and more. Has it really saved me from much? A small wound or two at best. It is the sword, not the armor, I have to thank for this abiding health. I rose and observed the leaves around me. Why so many fallen, and the summer not yet old? Do these trees ail even as they shelter us? A shaft of sun breaking through the high foliage fell across Horace's muzzle, and I watched him shake his nose from side to side as though that beam were a fly sent to torment him. He had no pleasant night either, listening to noises of the forest all around him, wondering to what dangers his night had gone. Displeased though I was that he aroused me so soon, when I stepped towards him, it was only to hold his neck gently in both my arms, and for a brief moment rest my head in his mane. A hard master he has, I know that. I pushed him on when I know him to be wary, curse him when he has done no wrong, and all this metal as much burden for him as for me. How much further will we ride together? I patted him gently, saying, "We'll find a friendly village soon, and you will have a better breakfast than the one you just had." I spoke this way, believing the problem of Master Wisdom settled, but we were hardly down the path, not yet out of the woods, when we came across the bedraggled monk, his shoes broken, hurrying before us to Lord Brennus's camp. And what does he tell us but that Master Wisdom has escaped the monastery, leaving his pursuers of the night dead, many no more than charred bones. What a fellow! Strange how my heart fills with joy to hear the news, even though it brings back a heavy task I thought behind us. So, Horace and I put aside our thoughts of hay and roast meat and good company. And now we climb uphill once more. Thankfully, at least, we travel further from that cursed monastery. In my heart, it is true. I am relieved Master Wisdom did not perish in the hands of those monks and the wretched Brennus. But what a fellow! The blood he sheds each day would make the Severn overflow. The Severn overflow. He was wounded, the bedraggled monk thought, but who can rely on one such as Master Wisdom to lie down and die easily? How foolish I was to let the boy Edwin run off that way, and now who will wager against the two of them finding each other? So foolish, yet I was wary then, and besides, little imagined Master Wisdom could escape. What a fellow! Had he been a man of our day, Saxon though he is, he would have won Arthur's admiration. Even the best of us would have feared to meet him as a foe. Yet, yesterday, when I saw him meet Brennus's soldier in combat, I might have seen a small weakness on his left side. Or was it his clever ploy of the moment? If I watch him fight once more, I will know better. A skillful warrior all the same, and it would take a knight of Arthur to suspect it, but I thought it so. As I watched the fight, I said to myself, look there. A small lapse on the left side. One a canny opponent might just exploit. Yet, which of us would not have respected him? Yet these dark widows, why do they cross our path? Is our day not busy enough? Our patience not yet sufficiently taxed? We'll stop at the next crest, I was saying to Horace as we came up to the slope. We'll stop and rest even though black clouds gather and we most likely face a storm. And if there be no trees, I will still sit down right there on the shrub heather and shall rest all the same. Yet when the road finally leveled, what do we see but great birds perch on their rocks, and they rise as one, not to fly into the darkening sky but towards us. Then I saw they were no birds, but old women in flapping cloaks assembling on the path before us. Why choose such a barren spot together? Not a cairn, nor a dry well to mark it. No thin tree or shrub to comfort the wayfarer from sun or rain, just these chalky rocks from which they rose sunk into the earth on either side of the road. Let's be sure, I said to Horace. Let's be sure my old eyes don't let me down and these are not bandits come to set upon us. But there was no need to draw the sword. Its blade still stings of the devil's dog slime, no matter I thrust it deep into the ground before I slept, for they were old women sure enough, though we might have made good use of the shield or two against them. Ladies, let us remember them as ladies. Horace, now we are finally beyond them. You are, for they are not to be pitied. We will not call them hags, even if their manners tempt us to. Let us remember that once some among them at least possessed grace and beauty. Here he comes, cried one. The impostor knight! Others took up the cry as I came closer, and we might have trotted through the ranks, but I am not one to shy away from adversity. So I brought Horace to a halt, and in their midst, though gazing towards the next peak as if studying the gathering clouds. Only when their rags flapped around me and I could feel the blast of their shouts did I gaze down from the saddle at them. Were there 15? 20? Hands reached to touch Horace's flanks. I whispered to calm him. Then I straightened and said, Ladies, if we were to talk, you must cease this noise, to which they quietened. but their looks stayed angry, and I said to them, "What do you want of me, ladies? Why come upon me this way?" To which one woman calls up, "We know you for the foolish knight, too timid to complete the task given him." And another, "If you had done long ago what God has asked of you, would we be wandering the land of in woe this way?" And yet another, "He dreads his duty. See it on his face. He dreads his duty." I contained my anger and asked them to explain themselves. Whereupon one, a little more civil than the rest, stepped forward. "Forgive us, knight. It's long days we have wandered under these skies, and to see you in person come riding boldly our way, we cannot but make you hear our laments." "Mistress," I said to her, "I may look burdened by years, but I remain a knight of the great Arthur. If you will tell me your troubles, I will gladly help you as I can." To my dismay, the women, the civil one included, all broke into a sarcastic laugh, and then a voice said, "Had you done your duty long ago and slain the she-dragon, will not be wandering distressed this way." This shocked me, and I cried out, "What do you know? What do you know of it? What do you know of Keurig?" But saw in time the need for restraint, and so I spoke calmly. "Explain it, ladies. What compels you to walk these roads this way?" To which a parched voice behind said, "If you ask why I wander, knight, I will happily tell you. When the boatman put me to this question, my beloved already in the boat, and reaching out to help me in, I found my most treasured memories robbed from me. I didn't know then, but now I do. Keurig's breath was the thief, robbed me, the very creature you were to have slain long ago." "How can you know this, mistress?" I demanded, no longer able to hide my consternation. For how can it be such vagabonds know a secret so well guarded? To which the civil one then smiles strangely and says, "We are widows, knights. There's little can be hidden from us now." Only then I feel Horace gave a tremble, and I hear myself ask, "What are you, ladies? Are you living or dead?" To which the women once more break into laughter, a jeering sound to it that makes Horace shift a hoof uneasily. I pat him gently while I say, "Ladies, why do you laugh? What was that so foolish a question?" And the raspy voice behind says, "See how fearful he is. Now he fears us as readily as he does the dragon." "What nonsense is this, lady?" I shout more forcefully, as Horace takes a step back against my wishes. I have to tug to steady him. "I fear no dragon, and fierce though Keurig is, I've faced far greater evils in my time. If I have been slow to slay her, it's only because she hides herself with great cunning in those high rocks. You rebuke me, madam? But what do we hear of Keurig now? A time was she thought nothing of raiding a village or more each month, yet boys have grown into men since we last heard of the like. She knows I close in, so she dares not show herself beyond these hills." Even as I spoke, one woman opened a raggy cloak, and a clump of mud struck Horace's neck. "Intolerable," I told Horace. "We must go on. What can these old crones know of our mission?" I nudged him to move forward, but he was strangely frozen, and I had to dig in my spur to make him push forward. Thankfully, the dark figures parted before us, and I was gazing again at the distant peaks. My heart sank at the thought of those desolate high grounds. Even the company of these unholy hags, I thought, might be preferable to those bleak ruins. But as though to disabuse me of such sentiments, the women started up their chant behind me, and I felt more mutts flung our way. But what do they chant? Do they dare cry coward? I had a mind, in turn, and show my wrath, yet remembered myself in time. Coward, coward, what do they know? Were they there? Were they there that day long ago we rode out to face Keurig? Would they have called me coward then, or any of us five? And even after that great mission from which only 3 returned, did I not then, ladies, with hardly a rest, hurry to the valley's edge to make good of my promise to the young maid? Edra, she later told me her name. She was no beauty, and dressed in the simplest weed, but like that other I sometimes dream of, she had bloom tug my heart. I saw her on the roadside carrying her hoe in both her arms, only lately become a woman. She was so small and slight, and the sight of such innocence, wandering unprotected so near the horrors from which I just made it impossible for me to ride by, even if I went to such a mission as I did. Turn back, maiden, I called down from the stallion, this being before the days of horrors when even I was young. What great foolishness makes you go that way? Don't you know a battle rages down in this valley? I know it well, sir, she said, and no fear meeting my eye. It's a long journey I've made to come this far, and soon I'll be down the valley and join the battle. Has some sprite bewitched you, maiden? I came from the valley floor just now, where seasoned warriors spew out their stomach from dread. I would not have you hear even a distant echo of it. And why that hoe so large for you? There's a Saxon lord I know is down in the valley now, and I pray with all my heart he isn't fallen, and God will protect him well, for I will have him die at my hands only, after what he did to my dear mother and sisters, and I carry this hoe to do the work. It breaks the grounds of a winter's morning, so it will do well enough on this Saxon's bones. I was obliged then to dismount and hold her by the arm, even as she tried to pull away. If she still lives today, Ezra, she later told me that was her name, she would now be near your age, ladies. It may even be she was among you just now. How would I know? No great beauty, but like that the other, her innocence spoke to me. Let me go, sir, she cries, to which I say, you will not go down that valley. The sight of the edge alone will make you swoon. I'm no weakling, sir, she cries. Let me go. And there we stand on the roadside like 2 quarreling children, and I can calm her only by saying, Maiden, I see nothing will dissuade you, but I think how remote the chances of your finding alone the vengeance you crave. Yet, with my help, your chances will improve many folds. So be patient and sit a while out of this sun. Look there. Sit beneath that elder tree and wait for my return. I go to join 4 comrades on a mission which, though grave with danger, won't keep me long. Should I perish, you'll see me come this way again, tied across the saddle of this same horse, and you will know I can no longer keep my promise. Otherwise, I swear I will return, and we will together go down to make your dream of vengeance true. Be patient, maiden, and if your cause is just, as I believe it to be, God will see to this lord doesn't fall before we reach him. Hello, Piao. Were these the words of coward, ladies? uttered the very day as I rode out to face Curie. And once we were done with our task and I saw I had been spared, though the two of us five had not, I hastened back, weary as I was, to the valley's edge, and the elder tree where the maid still waited with hoe in her arm. She sprang to her feet, and the sight of her tugged my heart. Yet, when I tried once more to sway her from her intent, for I dreaded to see her enter the valley, she said angrily, "Are you false, sir? Will you not keep your promise to me?" So, I placed her on the saddle. She held on the rein, even when she clasped the hoe to her bosom, and I led on foot both horse and maiden down the valley slope. Did she blanch when we first heard the din? Or when the outskirts of the battle we met desperate Saxons, their pursuers on their heels? Did she wilt when exhausted warriors groped across our path trailing wounds along the grounds? Small tears appeared when I saw her whole tremble, and she did not turn away, for her eyes had their task, searching for the bloody field left and right, far and near. Then I mounted the horse myself, and carrying her before me as if she was some gentle lamb, we rode together into the thick. Yet I looked timid then, thrashing with my sword, covering her with my shield, turning the horse this way and that until finally the battle tossed us both into the mud. But she was quickly on her feet, and recovering her hoe, began to tread the path through the mashed and quartered heaps. Our ears filled with the strange cries, and she seemed not to hear, the way a good Christian maid refuses the lewd shouts of the courseman she passes. I was young then, and nimblest of foot, so ran about her with my sword, cutting down any who would do her harm, sheltering her with my shield from the arrows that regularly fell among us. Then she saw at last the one she sought, yet it was as if we were adrift on choppy waves, and though an isle seems near, the tide somehow kept it beyond reach. It was that way for us that day. I fought and battered and kept her safe, yet it seemed an eternity till we stood before him, and even then, three men, especially to guard him. I passed my shield to the maid, saying, "Shelter well, for your prize is almost yours." And though I faced three, and I saw they were warriors of steel, I defeated them one by one till I faced the Saxon lord she so hated. His knees were thick with the gore he had waded through, but I saw this was no warrior, and I brought him down till he lay breathing on the earth. His legs were no more used to him, staring his hatred up at the sky. So she came then and stood above him, the shield tossed aside, and then the look in her eyes chilled my blood over all else to be seen across the ghastly field. Then she brought the hoe down, not with a swing, but a small prod, then another, the way she is searching for crops in the soil, until I am made to cry, "Finish it, maiden, or else I'll do it myself." To which she says, "Leave me now, sir. I thank you for your service, but now it's done." "Only half done, maiden," I cry, "till I see you safe from this valley." But she no longer listens and goes on with her foul work. I would have quarrelled further, but it was then he appeared from the crowd. I mean, Master Axel, as I now know him, a younger man that day to be sure, but as wise countenance even then. And when I saw him, it was as if the noise of the battle receded to a hush around us. One moment, please. I forgot to mute my phone. "Why stand so exposed, sir?" I said to him, "and your sword still in its sheath? Take up a fallen shield at least, and cover yourself." but he keeps a faraway look as if he stands in the meadow of daisies on a fragrant morning. If God chooses to direct an arrow this way, he says, I will not impede it. Sir Gawain, I am pleased to see you well. Are you lately arrived or have you been here from the start? This, as if we meet at some summer fair, and I am obliged to cry again. Cover yourself, sir! The field remains thick with the foe. And when he continues to survey the scenery, I say, remembering his question to me, I was here at the battle start, but Arthur then chose me as one of the 5 to ride to a mission of great import. I am only now returned from it. At last, I draw his attention. A mission of great import. And did it go well? Sadly, 2 comrades lost, but we accomplished it to Master Merlin's satisfaction. Master Merlin, he says. A sage he may be, but that old man makes me shudder. Then he glances about once more, saying, I am sorry to hear you are lost, friends. Many more will be missed before the day closes. Yet the victory is surely yours, I say. Those cursed Saxons, why fight on this way, with only death to thank them for it? I believe they do so for sheer anger and hatred of us, he says, for it must be by now. Word has reached their ears of what's been done to their innocent life, to the innocents left in their villages. I am myself just come from them, so why would the news not reach also the Saxons' ranks? What news do you speak of, Master Axel? News of their women, children, and elderly left unprotected after our solemn agreement not to harm them, now all slaughtered by our hands, even the smallest babes. If this were lately done to us, would our hatred exhaust itself? Would we not also fight to the last as they do, each fresh wound given a balm? Why dwell on this matter, Master Axel? Our victory today is secure and will be a famous one. Why do I dwell on it? Sir, these are the very villages I befriended in Arthur's names. In one village they call me the Knight of Peace, and today I watch a mere dozen of our men ride through it with no hint of mercy. The only ones to oppose them, boys not yet grown to our shoulders. I am saddened to hear this news, but I press you again, sir. Pick up a shield at least. I came upon village by village the same, and our own men boasting of what they did. Don't blame yourself, sir, nor my uncle. The great law you once broke it was a thing truly wondrous while it held. How many innocents, Briton or Saxons, were spared over the years for it? That it didn't hold forever, it is none of your doing. Yet they believe in our bargain till this day. It was I won their trust where first there were only fear and hatred. Today our deeds makes me a liar and a butcher, and I take no joy in Arthur's victory. What will you do with such wild words, sir? If it's treachery you contemplate, let's face one another with no more delay. Your uncle is safe from me, sir. Yet how do you rejoice, Sir Gawain, in the victory won at this price? Master Axel, what was done in these Saxon towns today, what was done in this Saxon's town today, my uncle would have commanded only with a heavy heart, knowing of no other way for peace to prevail. Think, sir, those small Saxon boys you lament would soon have become warriors burning to avenge their fathers fallen today. Those small girls soon bearing more in their wombs, and this circle of slaughter would never be broken. Look how deep runs the lust for vengeance. Look, even now, at that fair maid, one I escorted myself here. Watch her there still at her work. Yet With today's great victory, a rare chance come. We may once and for all sever this evil circle, and a great king must act boldly on it. May this be a famous day, Master Axel, from which our land can be in peace for years to come. I fail to understand you, sir. Though today, we slaughter a sea of Saxons. Sorry. I fail to understand you, sir. Though today we slaughter a sea of Saxons, be they warriors or babes, there are yet many more across the land. They come from the east, they land by ship on our coast, they build new villages by the day. The circle of hate is hardly broken, sir, but forged instead in iron by what's done today. I'll go now to your uncle and report what I've seen. I would see from his face if he believes God will smile on such deeds. A slaughter of babes. Is that what we were here? Is that what we were that day? And what of that one I escorted? What became of her? Was she among you just now, ladies? Why gather about me this way as I ride to my duty? Let an old man go in peace, a slaughter of babes. Yet I was not there, and even I had been, what good for me to argue with the great king, and he my uncle too? I was but a young knight then, and besides, is he not proved right each year that passes? Did you not all grow old in the time of peace? So leave us to go our way without insults at our back. The law of the innocents, a mighty law indeed, one to bring men closer to God, so Arthur always said to himself. Or was it Master Axel called it that way? We call him Axelum or Axelus then, but now he go by Axel and has a fine wife. Why taunt me, ladies? Is it my fault you grieve? My time will come before long, and I will not turn back to roam this land as you do. I shall greet the boatman contentedly and enter his rocking boat, the waters lapping all about, and I may sleep a while, and the sound of his oar in my ears. And I will move from slumber to half waking, and see the sun sunk low over the water, and the shore move further still, and nod to myself back into dreams till the boatman's voice stir me gently once more. And were he to ask question, as some say he will, I would answer honestly, for what have I left to hide? I had no wife, though at times I longed for one, yet I was a good knight, who performed his duty to the end. Let me say so, and he will see I do not lie. I will not mind him, the gentle sunset, his shadows falling over me as he moves from one side of his vessel to the other. But this will wait. Today, Horace and I must climb below this grey sky, up the barren slope towards the next peak, for our work is unfinished and Keurig awaits us. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Chizuru. Welcome back to my stream. And that was the first reverie. Sorry, what's it called? Gawain's first reverie. Pretty nice. Very good chapter. I like it. I enjoy it. Okay. Let's go on. Chapter 10. We are currently reading The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. Chapter 10. Part 3. Chapter 10. He had never intended to deceive the warrior. It was as if the deception itself had come quietly over the fields to envelop the two of them. The cooper's hut appeared to be built inside a deep ditch, its thatched roof so close to the earth that Edwin, lowering his head to pass under it, felt he was climbing into a hole. So, he had been prepared for the darkness, and the stifling warmth and the thick wood smoke took him aback, and he announced his arrival with a fit of coughing. "I am pleased to see you safe, young comrade." Winston's. Oh, sorry. That was Winston's voice. Yeah, gotta be more manly than that. Sorry. "I'm pleased to see you safe, young comrade." Winston's voice came out of the darkness beyond the smoldering fire. Then Edwin discerned the warrior's form on a turf bed. "Are you badly hurt, warrior?" As Winston sat up, slowly moving into the glow, Edwin saw his face, neck and shoulders were covered in perspiration. Yet the hand that reaches to the fire was trembling as if from cold. "The wounds are trivial, but they brought with them this fever. It was worse earlier, and I've little memory of coming here. The good monks say they tied me to the good monk said they tied me to a mare's back, and I fancy I was muttering all while playing the slack-jawed fool in the forest. What of you, comrade? You bear no wounds, I trust, beyond the one that you carried before." "I'm perfectly well, warrior, yet standing before you in shame. I'm a poor comrade to you, sleeping while you fought. Curse me and banish me from your sight, for it will be a thing well earned." "Not so fast, Master Edwin. If you failed me last night, I will soon tell you a way to make up your debts to me." The warrior carefully brought both feet to the earth floor, reached down and tossed a log into the flames. Edwin saw then how his left arm was bound tightly in sacking, and one side of his face had a spreading bruise that partially closed one eye. "True," Winston said. "When I first looked down from the top of the burning tower, and the wagon we so carefully prepared wasn't there, I had a mind to curse you. A long fall to a stony ground, and hot smoke already around me. Listening to the agonies of my enemies below, I ask, do I mingle with them even as we become ash together? Or better be smashed alone under the night sky? Yet before I could find an answer, the wagon arrived after all, tugged by my own mare, a monk pulling her bridle. I hardly asked if this monk was a friend or foe, but leapt from the chimney mouth, and our earlier work was well enough done, comrade. For though I plunged through the hay as if it were water, I met nothing to pierce me. I awoke on a table, gentle monks loyal to Father Jonas, attending me all around as if I were their supper. The fever must have already taken the whole by then, whether from these wounds or from the great heat, for they say they had to muffle my raving till they brought me down here, out of the harm's way. But if the gods favor us, the fever will soon pass, and we'll set off to finish our errand." "Warrior, I stand here in shame. Even after I awoke and saw the soldiers around the tower, and let some sprite possess me, and I fled the monastery behind those elderly Britons. I had begged you to curse me now and beat me, but I heard you say there was some way I might make up to you for last night's disgrace. Tell me, warrior, and I'll fall on whatever task you give me with impatience." Even as he said this, his mother's voice had called, resounding around the little hovel, so Edwin was hardly sure he had spoken these words aloud, but he must have done, for he heard Winston say, "Do you remember I chose you for your courage alone, young comrade? You have remarkable spirit, right enough, and if we survive this errand, I'll I'll see you learn the skill to make you a true warrior. But just now you are rough horn, not yet a blade. I chose you above others, Master Edwin, because I saw that you had the hunter's gift to match your warrior spirit. A rare thing, indeed, to have both. How can that be, warrior? I know nothing of hunting. A wolf cub, drinking its mother's milk, can pick up the scent of a prey in the wild. I believe it is a gift of nature. Once this fever leaves me, we'll go further into these hills, and I'll wager you'll find the sky itself whispering to you which path to take, till we stand before the she-dragon's very lair. Warrior, I fear you misplace your faith where it will find no shelter. No kin of mine ever boasted of such skills, and no one suspected me of them. Even Steffa, who saw my warrior's soul, never mentioned such skills as these. Moment 14. Then leave it to me alone to believe in them, young comrade. I'll never say you make any such boasts. As soon as this fever leaves me, we will set off towards those eastern hills, where all talk has it Kirik has her lair, and I'll follow in your footsteps at each fork. It was then the deception had begun. He had never planned it, nor welcomed it, when, like a pixie stepping out from its dark corner, it had entered their presence. His mother had continued to call, "Find strength for me, Edwin. You are almost grown. Find the strength and come rescue me." And it was as much as a wish to appease her as his eagerness to redeem himself in the warrior's eyes that made him say, "It's curious, warrior. Now that you speak of it, I feel ready that this she-dragon's pull more taste in the wind than a scent. We should go without delay, for who knows how long I'll feel it." Even as he said this, the scenes were rapidly filling his mind. How he would enter the camp, startling them as they sat silently in their semicircle to watch his mother trying to free herself. They would be full-grown men by now, most likely bearded and heavy-bellied, no longer the lithe young men who had come swaggering into the village that day. Burly horsemen, as they reached for their axes, they would see the warrior following behind Edwin, and fear would enter their eyes. But how could he deceive the warrior, his teacher, and the man he admired above all others? And here was Wisdom nodding with satisfaction, saying, "I knew it as soon as I saw you, Master Edwin. Even as I released you from those ogres by the river, he would enter the camp. He would free his mother. The burly man would be killed, or perhaps be allowed to flee into the mountain folk. And then what? Edwin would have to explain why. Even as they were hurrying to complete an urgent errand, he had chosen to deceive the warrior. Partly to distract himself from such thoughts, for he now sensed it was too late for retreat, he said, "Warrior, there's a question I have for you, though you may think it was impertinent." Wisdom was recording back into the darkness, reclining once more into his bed. Now all Edwin could see of him was one bare knee, moving slowly from side to side. "Ask it, young comrade." "I'm wondering, warrior, if there's some special feud between you and Lord Brennus makes you stay and fight his soldiers when we might have fled the monastery and be half a day closer to Curate. It must be some mighty reason to make you put aside even your errand." The silence that followed was so long Edwin thought the warrior had passed out in the stifling air. But then there was the knee still moving slowly, and when the voice eventually came out of the darkness, the slight tremor of the fever seems to have evaporated. "I have no excuse, young comrade. I can only confess my folly, and that after that good father's warning not to forget my duty, see how weak is the resolve of your master. Yet I am a warrior before all else, and it is no easy thing to flee a battle I know I can win. You are right. We could even now be standing at the she-dragon's den, calling her to come greet us, but Brennus I knew it to be. Even I hoped he had come in person. It was more than I could do not to stay and welcome them. Then I'm right, warrior. There's some feud between you and Lord Brennus. No feud worth the name. We knew each other as boys, as young as you are now. This was in a country further west of here, in a well-guarded fort where we boys, 20 or more, were trained morning till night to become warriors in the Britain's ranks. I grew to feel great affection for my companions of those days, for they were splendid fellows and we lived like brothers. All except Brennus. That is, for being the Lord's son, he loves to mix with us. Yet he often trained with us, and though his skills were feeble, whenever one of us faced him with a wooden sword or at least wrestled in a sandpit, we had to let him win. Anything sort of glorious victory for the Lord's son would result in a punishment for all of us. Can you imagine it, young comrade? To be proud young boys as we were and have such an inferior opponent appear to conquer us day after day. Worse, Brennus delighted in heaping humiliation on his opponents even as we feigned defeat. It pleased him to stand on our necks or to kick us as we lay for him on the ground. Imagine how this felt for us, comrade. I see it well, warrior. But today, I have reason to be grateful to Lord Brennus, for he saved me from a pitiable fate. I've told you already, Master Edwin. I've begun to love my companions in that fort as my own brothers, even though they were Britons and I a Saxon. But is that so shameful, warrior, if you are brought up beside them facing harsh tasks together? Of course, it's shameful, boy. I feel shame even now remembering the affection I had for them. But it was Brennus showed me my error. Perhaps because even then my skills stood out, he delighted to choose me as his sparring opponent and reserve his greatest humiliations for me. And he was not slow to notice that I was a Saxon boy, and before long turned each of my companions against me on that account. Even those once closest to me joined against me, spitting my food or hiding my clothes as we hurried to our training on harsh winter mornings, fearful of our teacher's wrath. It was a great lesson Brennus taught me then. And when I understood how I shamed myself loving Britons as my brothers, I made up my mind to leave that fort even with no friends or kin beyond those walls. Whiston ceased speaking for a moment when his breath came heavily beyond the fire. So did you take your revenge on Lord Brennus, warrior, before you left that place? Judge me if I did or not, comrade, for I Judge me for if I did or not, comrade, for I am undecided on that question. The custom in that fort was for us apprentices after our day's training. We would to be allowed an hour after supper to idle away together. We had built a fire in the yard and sit around it talking and jesting the way boys will. Brennus never joined us, of course, for he had his privileged quarters, and on that evening, for whatever reason, I saw him walk past. I moved away from the rest, my companion suspecting nothing. Now that fort, like any other, had many hidden passages, all of which I knew well, so that before long I was in an unwatched corner where the battlements cast black shadows over the grounds. Brennus came strolling my way, alone. When I moved from the gloom, he stopped and looked at me with terror, for he saw at once this could not be no chance encounter, and further, that his usual powers were suspended. It was curious, Master Edwin, to see this swaggering lord turn so swiftly to an infant ready to make water before me for fear. I was sorely tempted to say to him, "Good sir, I see your sword on your hip. Knowing how much more skillfully you wield it, you'll have no fear drawing it against mine." Yet I said no such thing, for I had heard him in that dark corner. What of my dreams of a life beyond those walls? I said nothing, but remained before him in silence, letting the moment grow long between us, for I wish it to be one never forgotten. And though he cowered back and would have cried for help, had not some remnant of pride told him to do so would ensure his abiding humiliation, we neither of us spoke to the other. Then in time I left him, and so you see, Master Edwin, nothing and yet everything had passed between us. I knew then that I would do well to leave that very night, and since these were no longer times of wars, the watch wasn't strict. I slipped quietly past the guards, saying no farewells, and was soon a boy under the moonlight, my dear companions left behind, my own king long slaughtered, nothing but my courage and lately learned skills to carry on my journey. Warrior, what does Brennus hunt you even today, fearing your vengeance from those days? Who knows what the demons whisper in the fool's ear? A great lord now in this country and the next, yet he lives in the dread of any Saxon traveler from the east passing through his lands. Has he fed the fear of that night again and again, that it now sits in his belly a giant worm? Or is it the she-dragon's breath make him forget whatever cause he once had to fear me, yet the dread grow all the more monstrous for being unnamed? Only last year, a Saxon warrior from the fens, once I knew well, was killed as he traveled in peace through this very country. Yet I remain indebted to Lord Brennus for the lesson he taught me, for without it I might even now be counting Britons as my brother warriors. What troubles you, young comrade? You shift from foot to foot as if my fever possesses you also. So he had failed to hide his restlessness. But surely wisdom could not suspect his deception. Was it possible the warrior, too, could hear his mother's voice? She had been calling all the while the warriors had been speaking. Will you not find strength from me, Edwin? Are you too young after all? Will you not comfort me, Edwin? Did you not promise me that you would? I'm sorry, warrior. It's my hunter's instinct make me impatient, for I fear to lose the scent and the morning sun already rising outside. We'll be gone as soon as I'm able to climb onto the mare's back. But leave me a little longer, comrade, for how else can we face such an opponent as this dragon when I'm too fevered to lift a sword? That was chapter 10. How's it going, guys? Alright, let's go. Chapter 11. One sip of tea. Coffee. Chapter 11. We're currently reading The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, Part 3, Chapter 11. He longed for a patch of sun to warm Beatrice, but though the opposite bank was often bathed in morning light, their side of the river remained shaded and cold. Axel could feel her leaning on him as they walked, and her shivering had grown steadily worse. He had been about to suggest another rest when at last they spotted the roof behind the willows jutting out into the into the water. It took some time to negotiate the muddy slope down the boathouse, and when they stepped under the low arch, the near darkness and the proximity of the lapping water seemed only to make Beatrice shiver more. They moved further inside, over damped wooden boards, and saw beyond the roof overhang tall grass, rushes, and an expanse of the river. Then a man's figure rose from the shadows to their left, saying, "Who might you be, friends?" "God be with you, sir," Axel said. "We are sorry if we brought you from your sleep. We are just two weary travelers wishing to go downriver to our son's village." A broad-bearded man of middle years, clad in layers of animal skins, emerged into the light and scrutinized them. Eventually he asked, not unkindly, "Is the lady there unwell?" "She's only tired, sir, but unable to walk the remaining way. We hope you might spare a barge or a small boat to carry us. We depend on your kindness, and for some misfortune lately took the bundles we carried, and with them the tin to recompense you. I can see, sir, you have but one boat now in the water. I can at least promise you safe passage for any cargo you would entrust, should you allow us to use it." The boatkeeper looked out at the boat rocking gently under the roof, then back at Axel. "It'll be a while, friend, till this boat goes downstream, but I'm waiting for my companion to return with barley to fill it. But I see you're both weary and lately suffered some misfortune, so let me make these suggestions. Look there, friends. You see those baskets?" "Baskets, sir?" "They may look flimsy, but float well and will bear your weight, though you'll have to go one in each. We are accustomed to filling them with full sacks of corn and even at times a slaughtered pig, and tethered behind a boat, they'll travel even a rough river without jeopardy. And today, as you see, the water's steady, so you'll travel without worry." "You are kind, sir, but have you not no basket large enough for the two of us?" "You must go on one to each basket, friends, or else fear drowning. But I'll gladly tether two together, so you go almost as good as one. When you see the lower boathouse on the same side, your journey will be over, and I'll ask you to leave the basket there as well tied."
"Axel,"
Beatrice whispered.
"let's not separate. We'll go together on foot, slow though it may be."
"Walking is beyond us now, princess. We both need warmth and food, and this river will carry us swiftly to our son's welcome."
"Please, Axel, I don't want us to separate."
"But this good man says he will trust our two baskets together, and it will be good as we are arm in arm." Then turning to the boatkeeper, he said, "I am grateful to you, sir. We'll do as you suggest. Please tie the basket tightly so there's no chance of swift currents will move us apart. The danger isn't the river's speed, my friend, but its slowness. It's easy to get caught in the weed near the bank and move no further. Yet, I'll lend you a strong staff to push with you, so you have little to fear." As the boatkeeper went on to the edge of his jetty and began to busy himself with the rope, Beatrice whispered, "Axel, please not be parted." "We'll not be parted, princess. Look how he makes his knots to keep us together." "The current may part us, Axel. Never mind what this man tells us." "We'll be fine, princess, and soon at our son's village." Then the boatkeeper was calling them, and they stepped carefully down the little stones where he he was steadying with long pole 2 baskets bobbing in the water. "They are well lined with hide," he said. "You'll hardly feel the river's cold." Though he found it painful to crouch, Axel kept both hands on Beatrice until she had safely lowered herself into the first basket. "Don't try to rise, princess, or you will endanger the vessel." "Won't you get in yourself, Axel?" "I'm getting in right beside you. Look, this good man's fasteners tied together." "Don't leave me here alone, Axel." But even as she said this, she appeared reassured and lay down in the basket like a child going to sleep. "Good, sir," Axel said. "See how my wife trembled from the cold. Is there something you might lend to cover her?" The boatkeeper, too, was looking at Beatrice, who had now curled up on her side and closed her eyes. Suddenly, he removed one of the furs that he was wearing and, bending forward, laid it on top of her. She seemed not to notice. Her eyes remained closed, so it was Axel who thanked him. "Welcome, friend. Leave everything in the lower boat house for me." The man pushed them into the current with his pole. Sit down low and keep the staff handy for the weeds." It was bitingly cold on the river. Broken ice drifted here and there in sheets, but their baskets moved past them with ease, sometimes bumping gently against one another. The baskets were shaped almost like boats, with a bow and stern, but had a tendency to rotate, so that at times Axel found himself gazing up at the river to the boathouse still visible on the bank. The dawn was pouring through the waving grass and beside them, and as the boatkeeper had promised, the river moved at an easy pace. Even so, Axel found himself glancing continuously over at Beatrice's basket, which appeared to be filled entirely with animal skin, only with a small portion of her hair visible to betray her presence. Once he called out, "We'll be there in no time, princess," and there was no response. When there was no response, reach over to tuck her basket closer. "Princess, are you sleeping?" "Axel, are you still there?" "Of course I'm still here." "Axel, I thought you had left me again." "Why would I leave you, princess? The men tied our vessels carefully together." "I don't know if it's a thing dreamt or remembered, but I saw myself just then standing in our chamber in the dead of night. It was long ago, and I had tied around me that cloak of badger hides you made once as a tender gift for me. I was standing like that, and in our former chamber too, not the one we have now, for the wall had branches of beech crossing left to right, and I was watching a caterpillar crawling slowly on it, and asking why a caterpillar wouldn't be asleep so late at night." "Never mind caterpillars. What are you doing to yourself awake and staring at a wall in the pit of the night?" "I think I was standing that way because you had gone and left me, Axel. Maybe this fur the man's put over me reminds me of that one then. For I was holding to myself while I stood there, the one you have made for me from the badger skins, which later we lost in the fire. I was watching the caterpillar and asking why it didn't sleep, and if a creature like that even knew night from day. Yet I believe the reason was that you had gone away, Axel." "A wild dream, princess, and maybe a fever coming too, but we'll be beside a warm fire before long." "Are you still there, Axel?" "Of course I'm here, and the boathouse long out of sight now." "You have left me that night, Axel, and our precious son too. He had left a day or two before, saying that he had no wish to be at home when you returned, so it was just me alone in our former chamber, dead at night. But we had a candle in those days, and I was able to see the caterpillar." "That's a strange dream you speak of, princess. No doubt brought on by your fever and this cold. I wish the sun would rise with less patience." "You're right, Axel. It's cold here, even under this rug." "I'll warm you in my arms but the river won't allow it."
Axel? Can it be our own son left us in anger one day and we closed our door to him, telling him to never return? Princess, I see something before us in the water, maybe a boat stuck in the reeds. You're drifting further away, Axel. I can hardly hear you. I'm here beside you, Princess. He had been sitting low in his basket and his legs spread before him, but now shifted carefully into a crouching posture, holding the rim to either side. I see it better now. A small rowing boat stuck in the reeds where the bank turns ahead. It's on our path. We'll have to take care, and or we're stuck in the same way. Axel, don't go away from me. I'm here beside you, Princess, but let me take this staff and keep us clear from the rushes. The baskets were moving ever so slowly now, pulling inwards towards the sludge-like water where the bank made its turn. Thrusting the staff into the water, Axel found he could touch the bottom easily when he tried to push back into the current. The river floor sucked at the stick and allowing him no purchase. He could see too, the morning light breaking over the long grass fields, how weeds had woven thickly around both baskets, as though to bind them further to this stagnant spot. The boat was almost before them, and as they drifted lethargically towards it, and Axel held out the staff to touch against its stern and brought them to a halt. Is it the other boathouse, husband? Not yet. Axel glanced over to that part of the river, still gliding downstream. I'm sorry, Princess. We are caught in the reeds. But here's a rowing boat before us, and if it's worthy, we'll use it to ourselves to complete the journey. Pushing the staff once more into the water, Axel maneuvered them slowly to a position alongside the vessel. From their low vantage point, the boat loomed large, and Axel could see in fine detail the damaged coarsened wood and the underside of the gunwale, where a row of tiny icicles hung like candle wax. Planting the staff in the water, he now rose carefully to his full height within his basket and peered into the boat. The bow end was bathed in orange light, and it took him a moment to see that the pile of rags heaped there on the boat was in fact an elderly woman. The unusual nature of his garment, the patchwork of numerous small dark rags, and the sooty grime smeared over her face had momentarily deceived him. Moreover, she was seated in a peculiar posture, her head tilted heavily to one side, so that it was almost touching the boat's floor. Something about the old woman's clothes tugged at his memory, but now she opened her eyes and stared at him. "Help me, stranger," she said quietly, not altering her posture. "Are you sick, mistress? My arms won't obey me, or I'll by now be up and taken the oar. Help me, stranger." "Who do you speak to, Axel?" Beatrice's voice came from behind him. "Take care it's not some demon." "It's just some poor woman of our years or more, injured in her boat." "Don't forget me, Axel." "Forget you? Why would I forget you, Princess? The mist make us forget so much. Why should it not make us forget each other?" "Such a thing can never happen, Princess. Now I must help this poor woman, and perhaps with luck we'll all three use her boat to journey downstream." "Stranger, I hear what you say." "Stranger, I hear what you say. You are most welcome to share my boat, but help me now, for I'm fallen and hurt." "Axel, please don't leave me here. Don't forget me." "I'm just stepping onto this boat beside us, Princess. I must attend to this poor stranger." The cold had stiffened his limbs, and he almost lost his balance as he climbed into the larger vessel. But he steadied himself and looked around him. The boat seemed simple and sturdy, with no obvious signs of leakage. There was a cargo piled near the stern, but Axel paid this little attention, for the woman was saying something again. The morning sun was still fully upon her, and he could see how her gaze was fixed now with some intensity on his feet.
so much so that he could not help looking down himself. Noticing nothing remarkable, he continued towards her, stepping carefully over the boat's bracing.
Stranger, I see that you are not a young boy. I can see that you are not young, but you have strength left. Show them a fierce face to make them flee.
Come, mistress.
Are you able to sit up?
He had said this, for he was troubled by her strange posture. Her loose grey hair was hanging down and touching the damp boards. Here, I'll help you. Try to sit higher. As he leaned forward and touched her, a rusted knife she had been holding fell from her grabs onto the board. In the same instant, some small creatures scampered out from her rags and away into the shadows. Do the rats bother you, mistress?
They're over there, stranger. Show them a fierce face, I say.
It now occurred to him that she had not been staring at his feet, but beyond him, to something in the back of the boat. He turned, but the low sun dazzled him, and he could not discern clearly whatever was moving there. Are they rats, mistress?
They fear you, stranger. They fear me too for a little while, but they sapped me a little by little, as they will. Had you not come, they'll be covering me even now.
Wait a moment, mistress. He stepped towards the stern, a hand raised against the low sun, and gazed down the objects piled in the shadows. He could make out tangles nets, a soaked-through blanket left in a heap, long-handled tool like a hoe lying across it, and there was a wooden lidless box, the sort fishermen used to keep fresh the dying fish they had caught. But when he peered into it, he saw not fish but skinned rabbits, a considerable number of them, pressed so closely one against the other, their tiny limbs appeared to be locked together. Then, as he watched, the whole mass of sinews, elbows, and ankles began to shift. Axel took a step back even as he saw an eye open and then another. A sound made him turn, and he saw the other end of the boat, still bathed in orange light. The old woman slumped against the bow, with pixies, too many to count, swarming over her. At first glance, she looked contented, as if being smothered in affection, while the small scrawny creatures ran through her rags and over her face and shoulders. And now there came more and more out of the river, climbing over the rim of the boat. Axel reached down for the long-handled tool before him, and he too had become enveloped by a sense of tranquility, and he found himself extracting the pole from the tangled netting in a strangely leisurely manner. He knew more and more creatures were rising from the water. How many have boarded now? 30? 60? And the collective voices seemed to him to resemble the sound of children playing in a distance. He had the presence of mind to raise the long tool, a hoe. Surely that was not a rusted blade on the end rising into the sky, or yet another creature clinging to it and bringing it crashing down onto the tiny knuckles and knees mounted to the sides of the boat. Then a second swing, this time towards the box with skinned rabbits, from which more pixies were running out. But then he had never been much of a swordsman. His skills for being diplomacy and, when required, intrigue, though whom can claim he had ever betrayed the trust of his skilled one? On the contrary, it was he who had been betrayed, and he could still wield a weapon in some fashion, and now he would bring it down this way and that, for had he not to defend Beatrice from these swarming creatures? But here they came, more and more. Were they still coming from the box, or from the shallow waters? Were they even now gathering around Beatrice asleep in her basket? The last blow of the hoe had some effect, for several creatures had fallen back into the water, and then another blow that had sent 2 or 3 flying through the air, and the old woman was a stranger. What obligation did he have to her before his own wife? But there she was, a strange woman, hardly visible now beneath the writhing creatures, and Axel
across the length of the boat. Ho raised and made another arc in the air to sweep off as many as possible without injuring the stranger. Yet how they clung on, and now they even dared to speak to him. Or was that the old woman herself from beneath them? Leave her, stranger! Leave her to us! Leave her, stranger! Axel swung the hoe again and it moved as though the air was thick water, and found its mark, scattering several creatures even more alive. Leave her, stranger! The old woman said again. Only this time did it occur to him with a stab of fear that seemed bottomless. The speaker was talking not of the dying stranger before him, but of Beatrice, and turning to his wife's basket in the reeds, he saw the waters around it alive and limbs and shoulders. His own basket was nearly capsizing from the pool of the creature trying to climb in, preserved only by the ballast of those already inside, but they were boarding the basket only to gain access to its neighbor. He could see other creature massing over the animal's skin, covering Beatrice. Uttering a cry, he climbed onto the side of the boat and let himself fall into the water. It was deep. It was deeper than he had anticipated, coming above his waist. But the shock of it took his breath only for an instant, before he let out a warrior's bellow that came to him as if from a distant memory. He lurched forward, the baskets and the hoe held high above him. There was tugging at his clothes. The water felt honey-like, but when he brought the hoe down his own basket, even though his weapon traveled frustratingly slow through the air, once it landed, more creatures that he could have suspected tumbled into the water. Then the next swing caused even greater destruction. He must this time had swung with blade outward. For was that not bloody flesh that he saw flying up into the sunlight? And yet Beatrice remained in an archway, floating complacently even as the creatures rose about her, and now they came from the land too, pouring through the grass onto the riverbank. Creatures were now even hanging from his hoe, and he let it fall into the water, suddenly wishing only to be at Beatrice's side. He waded through the weeds, broken bulrushes, the muds tugging at his feet, but Beatrice remained further away than ever. Then came the stranger's voice again, and even though now, down in the water, he could no longer see her, Axel could picture the old woman with startling clarity in his mind's eye, slumped onto the floor of her boat in the morning sun, the pixies moving freely over her as she uttered the words he could hear. Leave her, stranger. Leave her to us. Curse you! Axel muttered under his breath as he pushed himself forward. I'll never, ever, never give her up. A wise man like you, stranger. You have known a long time. Now there's no cure to save her. How will you bear it? How? What now lies in wait for her? Do you long for that day you watch your dearest love twist in agony, and with nothing to offer but kind words for her ear? Give her to us, and we will ease her suffering, as we have done for all the others before her. Curse you! I'll never give her to you. Give her to us, and we'll see she suffers no pain. We'll wash her in the river's water. The years will fall from her face, and she'll be as in a pleasant dream. Why keep her, sir? What can you give her but the agony of an animal in slaughter? I'll be rid of you. Get off her! Locking his hands together to make a club, he swung one, then the other, clearing a path in the water as he waded on, till at last he was before Beatrice, still fast asleep in her basket. The pixies were swarming over the animal skin that covered her, and then he began to pull them off one by one, hurling them away. Why will you not give her to us? This is no kindness you show her. He pushed the basket through the water until the ground rose up and the basket was sitting on wet mud amidst the grass and bulrushes. He leaned forward then and gathered his wife in his arm, lifting her out. Thankfully, she came back to wakefulness enough to cling to his neck, and they made faltering steps together, first onto the bank and then further into the fields. Only when the land felt hard and dry beneath them did Axel lower her, and they sat in the grass together, and he recovered his breath, she becoming steadily more awake. Axel, what is this place we have come to? Princess, how are you feeling now? We must get away from this spot. I'll carry you on my back. Axel, you're soaked through. Did you fall into the river? This is an evil spot, Princess. We must leave quickly. I'll gladly carry you on my back the way I used to do when we were young and foolish and enjoying a warm spring day. We must leave the river behind us. Sir Gawain's right. Surely that it will carry us all the more swiftly where we'll go. The land here looks as high in the mountains as we were before. We have no choice, Princess. We must get far from here. Come, I'll have you on my back. Come, Princess. Reach for my shoulders.
That was chapter 11. Chapter 12. Chapter 12. He could hear the warrior's voice below him, appealing to him to climb more slowly, but Edwin ignored it. One moment, please. Sorry. Winston was too slow, and in general appeared not to appreciate the urgency of their situation. When they were still not halfway up the cliff, he had asked Edwin, "Can that be a hawk just flew past us, young comrade?" What did it matter what it was? His fever had made the warrior soft, both in mind and body. Only a little further to climb, then he at least would be over the edge and standing on firm ground. He could then run. How he longed to run! But to where? Their destination had for a moment drifted beyond his recall. What was more, there had been something important to tell the warrior. He had been deceiving Winston about something. He has been deceiving Winston about something, and now it was almost time to confess. When they had started to climb, leaving the exhausted mare tied to a shrub beside the mountain path, he had resolved to make a clean breast of it once they reached to the top. Yet now he was almost there. His mind held nothing but confused whips. He clambered over the last rocks and pulled himself over the precipice. The land before him was bare and wind-scarred, rising gradually towards the pale peaks on the horizon. Nearby were patches of heather and mountain grass, but nothing taller than a man's ankle. Yet strangely, there, in the mid-distance, what was appeared to be a wood in its lush standing calmly against the battling wind. Had some god on a whim picked up his fingers of section of rich forest and set it down on this inhospitable terrain. Though out of breath from the climb, Edwin pushed himself into a run, for those trees surely were where he had to be, and once there he would remember everything. Winston's voice was shouting again somewhere behind him. The warrior must finally have arrived at the top, but Edwin, not glancing back, ran all the faster. He would leave his confession until those trees within their shelter he would be able to remember more clearly, and they could talk about the wind's howl.
The grounds came up to meet him and knocked the breath from him. It happened so unexpectedly, he was obliged to lie there a moment, quite dazed. And when he tried to spring back to his feet, something soft but forceful kept him down. He realized that Winston's knee was on his back and that his hands were being tied behind him. "You ask before why we must carry ropes with us," Winston said. "Now you see how useful it can be." Edwin began to remember the exchange down the path below. Eager to start climb, he had been annoyed by the way the warrior was carefully transferring items from his saddle into 2 sacks for them to carry. "We must hurry, warrior. Why do we need all these things?" "Here, carry this, comrade. The she-dragon's foe enough without us growing weak with cold and hunger to aid her." "But the scent will be lost. And what need do we have of rope?" "We may need it yet, young comrade, and we won't find it growing on branches up there." Now the rope had been wound around his waist as well as his wrist, so that when finally he rose to his feet, he could move forward only against the pull of his leash. "Warrior, are you no longer my friend and teacher?" "I'm still that, and I am your protector too. From here, you must go with less haste." He found he did not mind the rope. The gait it obliged him to adopt was like that of a mule, and he was reminded of that time not long ago he had had to impersonate just such a beast, going round and around a wagon. Was he the same mule now, stubbornly pushing his way up the slope even as the rope pulled him back? He pulled and pulled, occasionally managing several steps at a run before the rope jerked him to a halt. A voice was in his ears, a familiar voice, half singing, half chanting a children's rhyme, one he knew well from when he was younger. It was comforting and disturbing in equal measure, and he found it if he chanted along while tugging on the rope, the voice lost something of its unsettling edge. So he chanted at first under his breath, then with less inhibition into the wind. "Who knocked over the cup of ale? Who cut off the dragon's tail? Who left the snake inside the pail? 'Twas your cousin Adney." There was no further lines he did not remember, but he was surprised to find that he had but to chant along with the voice and words would come out correctly. The trees were near now, and the warrior tugged him back again. "Slowly, young comrade. We need more than courage to enter this strange grove. Look there. Pine trees at this height is no mystery, but aren't those oaks and elms beside them? No matter what trees grow here, warrior. No matter what trees grow here, warrior, or what birds fly these skies, we have little time left and we must hurry." God. Sorry. Sorry. I just looked at my chat. They entered the wood, and the ground changed beneath them. There was soft moss, nettles, even ferns. The leaves above them were dense enough to form a ceiling, so that for a while they wandered in grey half-light. Yet this was no forest, for soon they could see before them a clearing with its circle of open sky above it. The thought came to Edwin that if this was indeed the work of a god, the intention must have been to conceal with these trees wherever lay ahead. He pulled angrily at the rope, saying, "Why dally, warrior? Can it be you're afraid? Look at this place, young comrade. Your hunter's instinct have served us well. This must be the dragon's lair before us now. I'm the hunter of us too, warrior, and I tell you that clearing holds no dragon. We must hurry past it and beyond, for we have further to go." "Your wound, young comrade. Let me see if it remains clean." "Never mind my wound. I tell you, the scent will be lost. Let
go of the rope, warrior. I'll run on even if you will not. This time, Winston released him, and Edwin pushed past the thistles and tangled roots. Several times he lost his balance, and for Truson, for trust, for trusted, as he was, he had no hand to put out to steady himself. But he reached the clearing without injury and stopped at its edge to take in the sight before him. At the center of the clearing was a pond. It was frozen over, so a man, were he brave or foolish enough, might cross in 20 or so strides. The smoothness of the ice surface was interrupted only near the far side, where the hollowed out trunk of a dead tree burst up through it. Along the bank, not far away from the ruined tree, a large ogre was crouching down on its knees and elbow at the water's very edge, and its head completely submerged. Perhaps the creature had been drinking or searching for something beneath the surface and had been overtaken by the sudden freeze. To a careless observer, the ogre might have been a headless corpse, decapitated as it crawled to quench its thirst. The patch of sky above the pond cast a strange light down on the ogre, and Edwin stared at it for a while, almost expecting it to return to life, bringing up a ghastly and flushed face. Then, with a start, he realized there was a second creature in the identical posture of the far right hand edge of the pond, and there yet a third, not before him, on the near bank, half concealed by the ferns. Ogres usually arouse only by revulsions in him, but these creatures and the eerie melancholy of their posture made Edwin feel a tug of pity. What had brought them to such a fate? He began to move towards them, but the rope was taut again, and he heard Winston say close behind him, "Do you still deny this is a dragon's lair, comrade?" "Not here, warrior. We must go further." "Yet this spot whispers to me, even if not their lair, isn't this a place she comes to drink and bathe?" "I say it's cursed, warrior, and no place to do battle with her. We'll have only ill luck here. Look at those poor ogres. They're almost as large as the fiends you had killed the other night." "What do you speak of, boy? Don't you see them? Look there, look there!" "Master Edwin, you have become exhausted, as I feared. Let's rest a while, even if this gloomy spot gives us respite from the wind." "How can you talk of rest, warrior? And isn't that how those poor creatures met their fates, loitering in this bewitched place for too long? Heed their warning, warrior." "The only warning I heed tells me to make you rest before you drive your own heart to burst." He felt himself tugged, and his back struck against the bark of a tree. Then the warrior was trudging around him, circling the rope around his chest and his shoulders till he could hardly move. "This good tree means you no harm, young comrade." The warrior placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Why waste strength this way to uproot it? Calm yourself and rest, I say, while I study more closely this place." He watched Winston picking his way through the nettles down the pond, reaching the water's edge, and the warrior spent several moments just walking slowly back and forth, staring closely at the ground, sometimes crouching down to examine whatever caught his eyes. Then he straightened and for a long time seemed to fall into reverie, gazing over at the trees at the far side of the pond. For Edwin, the warrior was now near silhouette against the frozen water. Why did he not even glance towards the ogres? Winston made a movement, and suddenly the sword was in his hand. The arm poised and unmoving in the air. Then the weapon was returned to its scabbard, and the warrior, turning from the water, came walking back towards him. "We are hardly the first visitors here," he said. "Even this past hour, some parties came this way, and it's no she-dragon. Master Edwin, I'm glad to see you calmer."
Warrior, I have a confession to make, one that may make you slay me as I stand trusted to this tree. Speak, boy, and don't fear me. Warrior, you claim for me the hunter's gift, and even as you spoke of it, I felt a strong pull. So I let you believe that I had Keurig in my nostrils, but I was always deceiving you. Winston came closer till he was standing right before him. Go on, comrade. I can't go on. You have more to fear from your silence than my anger. Speak. I can't. Warrior, when we began to climb, I knew just what to tell you. Yet now, I am uncertain what it is I have kept hidden from you. It's the she-dragon's breath, nothing more. It had little sway over you before, but now overpowers you. A sure sign we are close to her. I feared it's this cursed pool bewitches me, warrior, and maybe bewitches you too, making you content to dally this away, and hardly glancing at those drowned ogres. Yet, I know there's confession I have to make, and only wish I could find it. Show me the way, the she-dragon's lair, and I'll forgive whatever small lies you have told me. But that's just it, warrior. We rode the mare till her heart nearly burst and then climbed this steep mountainside, yet I'm not leading you at all to the she-dragon. Winston had come so close to Edwin that he could feel the warrior's breath. Where could it be then, Master Edwin? You led me. It's my mother, warrior. I remember now. My aunt's not my mother. My real mother was taken, and even though I was a small boy then, I was watching, and I promised her that I would bring her back. Now that I'm nearly grown and have you beside me, even those men would tremble to face us. I deceived you, warrior, but understand my feelings and help me that we are now so near her. Your mother? You say she's near us now? Yes, warrior, but not here, not this cursed place. What do you remember of the men who took her? They look fierce, warrior, and well used to killing. Not a man in this village dared to come out to face them that day. Saxons or Britons? They were Britons, warrior. 3 men, and Stepha said that they must not long before they had been soldiers, for he recognized their soldier's way. I wasn't yet 5 years old, or else I would have fought for her. My own mother was taken, young comrade, so I understand your thoughts well. And I was too a child and weak when she was taken. There were times of war, and in my foolishness, seeing how the men slaughtered and hanged so many, I rejoiced to see the way they smiled at her, believing they meant to treat her with gentleness and favor. Perhaps it was this way for you, Master Edwin, and when you were young and still to know of men's ways. My mother was taken in a peaceful time, warrior, so no great harm has met her. She's been traveling the country to country. It may not be such a bad life, yet she longs to return to me. And it's true, the men who travel with her sometimes are cruel. Warrior, accept this confession. Punish me later, but help me face her captors, and it's long years she has waited for me. Hey, King TC. Your new name? Sky. Winston stared at him strangely. He seemed to be on the brink of saying something, but then shook his head and walked a few steps away from the tree, almost like one ashamed. Edwin had never even seen the warrior wear such an air and watched him with surprise. I'll readily forgive you for this deception, Master Edwin, Winston said eventually, turning back to face him, and any other small lies you may have told, and soon I'll release you from this tree and we'll go face whatever foe you may lead us to, but in return I'll ask you to make a promise. Tell me, warrior. Should I fall and you survive, promise me this, that you will carry in your heart a hatred of Britons. What do you mean, warrior? Which Britons? All Britons, young comrade. Even those who show you kindness. I don't understand, warrior. Why must I hate a Briton who shares with me his bread, or saves me from a foe as lately as the good Sir Gawain?
There are Britons who there are Britons who tempt our respect, even our love. I know this too well. But there are now greater things pressed on us than what each may feel for another. It was Britons under Arthur slaughtered our kind. It was Britons took your mother and mine. We have duty to hate every man, every man, woman, and child of their blood. So promise me this. Should I fall before I pass to you my skills, promise me you will tend well this hatred in your heart, and should it ever flicker or threaten to die, shield it with care till the flames take hold again. Will you promise me this, Master Wisdom?
Very well, warrior. I promise it. But now I hear my mother calling, and surely we have stayed in this gloomy place too long.
What can you mean? Sorry. Let's go to her then. But be prepared in case we come too late for her rescue.
What do you mean, warrior? How can that ever be? For I hear her even now.
Then let's hasten to her call. Just know one thing, young comrade. When the hour is too late for rescue, it's still early enough for revenge. So let me hear your promise again. Promise me that you will hate the Briton till the day you fall from your wounds or the heaviness of your years.
I gladly promise it again, warrior. But release me from this tree, for now I feel clearly which way we must go.
That was chapter 12. Hey, I'm doing alright. I haven't really been streaming a lot. I haven't been feeling that well. But, yeah, I'm trying my best. I'm always trying my best, okay? And that's good enough. I hope. Alrighty, we have 2 more chapters to go. Chapter 13. The goat, Axel could see, was well at home on this mountain terrain. It was eating happily the stubbly grass and heather, not caring about the wind or that its left leg were poised so much lower than the right. The animal had a fierce tug, as Axel had discovered all too well during their ascents, that it had not been easy to find a way of safety tethering it while he and Beatrice took their rest. But he spotted a dead tree root protruding from the slope and had carefully bound the rope to it. The goat was clearly visible from where they are now sat, the 2 large rocks, leaning one towards the other like an old married couple, had been visible from some way down. But Axel had hoped to come across a shelter from the wind long before they reached them. Yet the bare hillside had offered nothing, and they had had to persevere up the little path, the goat tugging as impulsively as a fierce gust. But when at last they reached the twin rocks, it was as if God had crafted for them this sanctuary, for while they could still hear the blast towards them, they felt only the faint stirring in the air. Even so, they sat close against one another, and as if in imitation of the stones above them. Here's all this country below us, Axel. Didn't that river carry us down at all? We were halted before we could get far, Princess. And now we climb uphill again. Right enough, Princess. I fear that the young girl hid from us the true hardship of this task. No doubt about it, Axel. She made it sound an easy stroll. But who will blame her? Still a child and more cares than one her age should bear. Axel, look there. Down the valley, do you see them? A hand raised to the glare.
Axel tried to discern what his wife was indicating, but eventually shook his head. My eyes aren't as good as yours, princess. I see valley after valley where the mountain descends, but nothing remarkable. There, Axel, follow my finger. Aren't those soldiers walking in a line? I see them now. Right enough. But surely they are not moving. They are moving. Have a seat. They are moving. Axel, it might be soldiers, the way they go in a long line. To my poor eyes, princess, they seem not to move at all. But even if they're soldiers, they're surely too far to bother us. It's the storm clouds to the west concern me more, for they'll bring mischief swifter than any soldier in distance. You're right, husband, and I wonder how much further is it we are to go. The young girl wasn't honest, insisting that it was simply but it was insisting it was but a simple stroll. Yet can we blame her? Her parents absent and her younger brothers to worry over. She must have been desperate to have us do her bidding. I can see them more clearly, princess, now the sun peeks from behind the clouds. They are not soldiers or men at all. They are a row of birds. What foolishness, Axel! If they are birds, how would we see them from here at all? They are closer than you imagine, princess. Dark birds set in a line, the way they do in the mountains. Then why is it one doesn't fly into the air as we watch them? One may fly up yet, princess, and I for one won't blame that young lass for isn't she in a black plight? And where would we have been without her help, soaked and shivering as we were when we first saw her? Besides, princess, as we remember it wasn't the girl alone keen to have this goat up to the giant's cairn. Is it even an hour gone by you were as anxious? I'm still anxious for it, Axel. For wouldn't it be a fine thing if Kirik was slain and dismissed no more? It's just when I see that goat chewing the earth that way, it's hard to believe a foolish creature that could ever do away with the great she-dragon. The goat had been eating with an equal appetite earlier that morning when they had just first come upon the little stone cottage. The cottage had been an easy maze hidden within a pocket of shadow in the foot of a looming cliff, and even when Beatrice had pointed out to him, Axel had mistaken it for the entrance of a settlement not unlike their own, dug deep into the mountainside. Only they had come closer had he realized that it was an isolated structure, the walls and roofs alike built from shards of dark grey rock. Water was falling from high above in a fine thread just in front of the cliffside to collect in a pool not far from the cottage and trickle away where the land dipped out of view. A little way before the cottage, just now brightly illuminated by the morning sun, was a small fence paddock, the sole occupant of which was the goat. As usual, the animal had been eating busily, but broke off to stare in astonishment at Axel and Beatrice. The children, though, had remained unaware of their approach. The girl and her two younger brothers were standing at the edge of the ditch, their backs to their visitors, preoccupied with something beneath their feet. Once one of the small boys crouched down to throw something into the ditch, provoking the girl to pull him back by the arm. "What can they be doing, Axel?" Beatrice said. "Mischief by the look of it, and the youngest of them still small enough to tumble in without meaning to." When they had gone past the goat, and the children still unaware of them, Axel called them out gently as he could. "God be with you," causing all three to spin around in alarm. Their guilty countenances supported Beatrice's notion that they had been up to no good, but the girl, a head taller than the two boys, recovered quickly and smiled. "Elders, you are welcome. We prayed to God only last night to send you, and here you have come to us. Welcome, welcome." She came splashing over the marshy grass towards them, and her brothers close behind. "You mistake us, child," Axel said. "We're just two lost travelers, cold and weary, and our clothes wet from the river where we were attacked lately by savage pixies. Would you call your mother and father to allow us warmth and the chance to dry ourselves beside the fire?" "You are not mistaken, sir. We prayed to the god Jesus last night, and now you have come. Please, elders, go inside our house where there's a fire still burning." "But where are your parents, child?" Beatrice asked. "But where are your parents, child?" Beatrice asked. Weary as we were, we would not intrude, and so wait for the lady or the master of the house to call us through the door. "It's just the three of us now, mistress, so you can call me the lady of the house. Please go inside and warm yourselves. You'll find food in the sack hanging from the beam, and there's wood beside the fire to add. Go inside, elders, and we'll not disturb your rest for a while, for we must see to the goat." "We accept your kindness gratefully, child," Axel said. "But tell us if the nearest village is far from here." But a shadow crossed the girl's face, and she exchanged looks with her brothers, now lined up beside her. Then she smiled again and said, "We are very high in the mountains here, sir. It's far to any village, so we ask you to stay here with us, and the warm fire and the food we offer. You must be weary, and I see how this wind makes you both shiver. So please, no more talk of going away. Go inside and rest, elders, for we have waited for you for so long." What is it so interests you in that ditch over there?" Beatrice asked suddenly. "Oh, it's nothing, mistress, nothing at all. But here you're standing in this wind and your clothes wet. Won't you accept our hospitality and rest yourself beside our fire and see how even now its smoke rises from the roof? There!" Axel took his weight from the rock and pointed. "A bird flown to the sky. Didn't I tell you, princess? Those are birds standing in a line. Didn't you see it climb to the sky?" Beatrice, who had risen to her feet a few moments before, now took a step beyond the sanctuary of their rocks, and Axel saw the wind immediately pull at her clothes. "A bird, right enough," she said. "But it didn't rise from those figures yonder. It could be you still don't see what I point to, Axel. I mean, there, on the further ridge, those dark shapes almost against the sky. I see them well enough, princess, but come back out of the wind. Soldiers or not, they move slowly on. The birds was never one of them. Come out of the wind, princess, and sit down. We must gather strength the best we can. Who knows how much further we must pull this goat?" Beatrice came back to their shelter, holding close to herself the cloak borrowed from the children. "Axel," she said as she seated herself again beside him, "do you really believe that before the great knights and warriors, it's a weary couple like us forbidden a candle in our own village, for who they may slay the she-dragon, and with all this ill-tempered goat to aid us, who knows what it will be?" Sorry, one moment please.
Sorry. I had a phone call that I need to take. My apologies! Sorry. Why did I even fucking stop? Okay. Beatrice came back to their shelter holding close to herself the cloak borrowed. Oh, thank you. To herself, borrowed from the children. Axel, she said as she seated herself again beside him. Do you really believe it? That before the great knights and warriors is a wary old couple like us forbidden a candle in our own village who may slay the she-dragon, and with all this ill-tempered goat to aid us? Who knows, it'll be so, princess. Maybe it's all just a young girl's wishing and nothing more. But we are grateful for her hospitality, and so we shouldn't mind doing as she asks. And who knows she isn't right, and Kurik will be slain this way. Axel, tell me, if the she-dragon really slain, and the mists start to clear, Axel, do you ever fear what will then be revealed to us? Didn't you say it yourself, princess? Our life together is like a tale of a happy end, no matter what turns to took on the way. I have said so before, Axel, yet now it may even be we'll slay Kirit with our own hands. There's a part of me fears the mist fading. Can it be so with you, Axel? Perhaps it is, princess. Perhaps it's always been so. But I fear what you spoke of earlier. I mean, as we rested beside the fire. What was it I said then, Axel? You don't remember? Did we have some foolish quarrel? I have no memory of it, except that I was near my wits' end from the cold and want of rest. If you have no memory of it, princess, then let it stay forgotten. But I felt something, Axel. Ever since we left those children, it's as if you're holding yourself away from me, and as we walk, and not just on account of that talking goat. Can it be we quarreled earlier, though I have no memory of it? I had no intention to hold myself away from you, princess. Forgive me. If it's not the goat pulling this way and that, then it must be I'm still thinking of some foolishness that was said between us. Trust me, it's best forgotten. Ooh, what did he say? One sip of tea. Sorry, I have a sniffy nose today. He had got the fire blazing again in the center of the floor, and all else inside the small cottage had fallen into shadow. Axel had been drying his clothes, holding each garment up to the flames, while Beatrice slept peacefully nearby in a nest of rugs. But then, quite suddenly, she had sat up and looked around her. Is the fire too hot for you, princess? For a moment, she continued to look bewildered, then wearily lowered herself back down onto the rugs. Her eyes, though, remained open, and Axel was about to repeat his question when she said this quietly. I was thinking of a night long ago, husband, when you were gone, leaving me alone in lonely bed, wondering to myself if you would ever come back to me. Princess, though we escaped those pixies on the river, I fear for some spell still lingers on you to give you such dreams. No dreams, husband. Just a memory or two returning. The night as dark as any, and there was I, alone in our bed, knowing all the while you were gone to another younger and fairer. Won't you believe me, princess? This is the work of the pixies still making mischief between us. You may be right, Axel. And if they were true memories, they are of long ago. Even so. She became silent, so that Axel thought she had dozed off again. But then she said, even so. Husband,
They are remembrance to make me shrink from you. When we have finished resting here and we are on our path again, let me walk a little way in front of you and you behind. Let us go on our way like that, husband, and I will not welcome your step beside me now. He said nothing to this at first. Then he lowered the garment away from the fire and turned to look at her. Her eyes were closed again, yet he was sure that she had not fallen asleep. When Axel finally found his voice, it had come out as no more than a whisper. It would be the saddest thing to me, princess, to walk separately from you, when the ground will let us go, as we always did. Beatrice gave no indication of having heard, and within moments her breathing had grown long and even. He had then put on his newly warm clothes and lain down on a blanket not far from his wife, but not without touching her. An overwhelming tiredness swept over him, and yet he saw again the pixies swarming in the water before him, and the hole he had swung through the air, landing in their midst, and remembered the noise of the children playing in the distance, how he had fought, almost like a warrior, with fury in his voice. And now she had said what she had. A picture came into his mind, clear and vivid, of himself and Beatrice on the mountain road, large grey skies above them, she walking several steps before him, and a great melancholy well up within him. There they went, an elderly couple, heads bowed 5-6 paces apart. He awoke to find the fire smoldering and Beatrice on her feet, peering out through one of the small gaps in the stone that constitute the windows of an abode such as this. Thoughts of their last exchange returned to him, but Beatrice returned, her features caught in the triangle of sunlight, and said in a cheerful voice, I thought to wake you before, Axel, seeing the morning grow outside, but then I kept thinking of the soaking you got in the river, and you needed more than brief knot or two. Only when he did not reply did she ask, What is it, Axel? Why look at me like that? I'm just gazing at you in relief and happiness, princess. I'm feeling much better, Axel. Rest was all I needed. I see that now. Then let's soon be on our way, for, as you say, the morning's grown while we slept. I've been watching these children, Axel. Even now, they stand by the same ditch as when we first came upon them. They have something down there draws them, and it's some mischief, I wager, for they often glance back the way they think some adults will discover and scold them. Where can their people be, Axel? It's not our concern, and besides, they seem well enough fed and clothes. Let's say our farewells and be gone. Axel, can it be you and I were quarreling earlier? I feel something came between us. Nothing we can't put aside, princess, though we may speak of it when the day is finished, who knows? But let's be on our way before hunger and cold overtake us again. When they emerged into the chilly sunshine, Axel saw patches of ice on the grass and a large sky mountain fading into the distance. The goat was eating over in its enclosure, muddy, upturned bucket near its feet. Then the three children were still beside the ditch, looking down into it, their backs to the cottage, and appeared to be quarreling. The girls were the first to realize Axel and Beatrice were approaching, and even as she spun around, her face broke into a bright smile. Dear elders! She started to come quickly away from the ditch, pulling her brothers with her. I hope you found our home comfortable, humble though it is. We did, child, and we are most grateful to you. Now we are well rested and ready to be on our way. But what become of your people when they leave you alone? The girl exchanged glances with her brothers, who had taken up positions to either side of her. Then she said, a little hesitantly, We manage by ourselves, sir, and put on an arm around each of the boys. And what is it down that ditch draws you, sir? It's just our goat, mistress. It was once our best goat, but it died. How did your goat come to die, child?
Axel asked gently. The other there looks well enough. The children exchanged more glances, and decision seems to pass among them.
Um, go look if you will, sir.
The girl said, and letting go of her brothers, she stepped to one side. Beatrice fell in step beside him as he went towards the ditch. Before they were halfway there, Axel stopped and said in a whisper, "Let me go alone first, princess." "Do you think I never saw a dead goat before, Axel?" "Even so, princess. Wait here a moment." The ditch was so deep as a man's height. The sun, now shining almost directly into it, should have made it easier to discern what was before him, but instead it created confusing shadows, and where the puddle and ice and myriad of dazzling surfaces, the goat appeared to have been of monstrous proportion, and now lay in several dismembered pieces. Over there a hind leg, there a neck and a head, and the latter wearing a serene expression. It took a little longer to identify the soft upturned belly of the animal, because pressed into it was a giant hand emerging from the dark mud. Only then did he see that much of what initially he had taken to be of a dead goat belonged to a second creature and tangled with it. The mound there was a shoulder, a stiffened knee. Then he saw movement and realized the thing in the ditch was still alive.
What do you see, Axel?
"Don't come forward, princess. It's no sight to raise your spirit. Some poor ogre, I suppose, dying a slow death. Maybe these children have foolishly thrown in a goat, thinking it might recover itself by eating." Even as he spoke, a large, hairless head revolved slowly in the slime, a gaping eye moving with it. Then the mud sucked greedily, and the head vanished.
"We didn't feed the ogre, sir,"
the girl's voice said behind him.
We know never to feed an ogre, but to burrow ourselves inside in their coming, and so we did with this one, sir, and we watched from our window while he pulled down our fence and took our best goat. Then he sat down there, sir, where you are now, his legs dangling over like he's an infant, and happily eating the goat raw the way ogres will. We knew not to unbar doors. The door, and the sun was getting lower, and the ogre was still eating our goat, but we could see he was getting weaker, and then at last he stands up, holding what's left of a goat, and then he falls down. First to his knees, then onto his side. Next thing, he rolled into the ditch, goat and all, and it's 2 days he's been down there and still not dead."
"Let's come away, child," Axel said. "This is no sight for you and your brothers. But what is it that made this poor ogre so sick? Can it be your goat was diseased?"
"Not diseased, sir. Poisoned. We have been feeding it more than a full week, just the way Bronwyn taught us, 6 times each day with the leaves. Why did you do such a thing, child?"
"Why, sir, to make a goat poisonous for the she-dragon. The poor ogre wasn't to know that, and so he poisoned himself. But it's not our fault, sir, because he shouldn't have been marauding the way he was." "A moment, child," Axel said. "Are you saying you fed the goat deliberately to fill it with poison?"
"Poison for the she-dragon, sir? But Bronwyn said that it wouldn't harm any of us, so how would we know that the poison might harm an ogre? We weren't to blame, sir, and meant no wickedness."
"No one will ever blame you, child. Yet tell me, why were you wishing to prepare poison for Curie? For I take it, this is the she-dragon that you are talking about."
"Oh, sir, we said our prayers morning and night, and often in the day too. And when you came this morning, we knew God had sent you. So please say you will help us, for we are just poor children forgotten by our parents. Will you take the goat there and the one left to us now and go with it up the path to the giant cane? It isn't easy. It's an easy walk. Sorry, it's an easy walk, sir. Less than half a day there and back, and I'll do it myself. But I can't leave these young ones alone. We have fed the goat just the way we did with the one eaten by the ogre. And this with 3 times more leaves in it. If only you would take it to the giant's cairn and leave it tethered there for the she-dragon, sir. And it's but an easy stroll. Please say that you will do it, elders, for we are fearing something else will bring our dear mother and father back to us. At last you speak of them, Beatrice said. What's to be done to bring your parents back to you? Did we tell you, mistress, if you would only take the goat up to the giant's cairn, where its well-known foods regularly left for the she-dragon, then, who knows, she'll perish the same way the poor ogre has, and he was a strong-looking one before his meal. We had always been afraid before of Bronwyn. We have always been afraid before of Bronwyn because of her wise art, but when she saw we were here alone, forgotten by our parents, she took pity on us. So please help us, elders, for who knows who anyone else will come this way. We are afraid to show ourselves to the soldiers or strange men who pass, but you are the ones we prayed for to the God Jesus. What is it young children like you can know of this world? Asked Axel. That you believe a poisonous goat will bring your parents back to you. It's what Bronwyn told us, sir. And though she's a terrible old woman, she never lies. She said it's the she-dragon leaves over us here made our parents forget us. And even though we often make our mother angry with our mischief, Bronwyn says that the day she remembers us again, she will hurry back and hold us one by one like this. The girl suddenly clutched an invisible child to her breast, her eyes closing and rocked gently for a moment. Then, opening her eyes again, she went on. But for now, the she-dragons cast some spell to make our parents forget us, so they will not come home. Bronwyn says that the she-dragon's curse is not just to us, but to everyone, and the sooner she perishes, the better. So we work very hard, sir, feeding both goats exactly as she said, 6 times each day. Please do as we ask, and we won't ever see our mother and father again. All we ask of you is to tether the goat at the giant's cairn, then go on your own way. Beatrice started to speak, but Axel said over her quickly, I'm sorry, child. We wish to help you, but to climb higher into these hills is now beyond us. We are elderly, and as you see, weary from the days of hard travel. We have no choice but to hurry on our way before further misfortune takes us. But sir, it was God himself sent you to us, and it's but a short stroll and not even a steep path from here. Dear child, Axel said, our hearts go out to you and will raise help at the next village, but we are too weak to do what you ask of us. And surely others will pass this way soon, happy to take the goat for you. It's beyond to us old ones, but we'll pray for your parents' return and that God will keep you safe always. Don't go, elders! It's not our fault. The ogre was poisoned. Taking his wife's arm, Axel led away from the child, led her away from the children. He did not look back until they had passed the goat's pen, and then he saw the children still standing there, 3 abreast, watching silently, the towering cliff behind them. Axel waved encouragingly, but something like shame, and perhaps the trace of some distant memory, a memory of another such departure, made him increase his pace. But before they had gone far, marshy ground had started to descend and the valleys to open before them. Beatrice tugged his arm to slow them. I didn't wish to talk across you before those children, husband, she said. But is it really beyond us to do as they ask? They are in no immediate peril, princess, and we have our own worries. How goes your pain now? My pain's no worse. Axel, look how those children stand as we left them, watching as we grow smaller in their sight. Can't we at least pause beside this stone and talk further on it? Let's not hasten away carelessly. Don't look back at them, princess, for you only taunt their hopes. We will not go back to their goat, but down into this valley, a fire. What food kind strangers may give us. But think on what it is that they ask, Axel. Beatrice had now brought them to a halt. Will a chance like this ever come again our way? Think on it. We stumbled on this spot so near Kurik's lair, and these children offer poisonous goat by which even the two of us, old and weak though we are, might bring down the she-dragon. Think of it, Axel. If Kurik falls, the mist will fast begin to clear. Who's to say those children aren't right and God himself didn't bring us this way? Axel remained silent for a moment, fighting the urge to look back towards the stone cottage. There's no telling the goat will bring any harm at all to Kurik, he said eventually. A helpless ogre is one thing. This she-dragon's a creature to scatter an army, and can it be wise for two elderly fools like us to wander so near her lair? We are not to face her, Axel. We are only to tether the goat and flee. It may be days before Kurik comes to the spot, and will by then be safe at our son's village. Axel, don't you want to return to us our memories of this long life lived together? Or will we become like strangers, met one night in shelter? Come, husband, say we'll return back and do as those children bid us. So here they were, climbing still higher, the winds growing stronger. For the moment, the twin rock provided good shelter, but they could not stay like this forever. Axel wondered yet again if she had been foolish to give in. Princess, he said eventually, suppose we really do this thing. Suppose God allow us to succeed, and as we bring down the she-dragon, I'd like you to then promise me something. She was sitting close beside him now, though her eyes were still on the distance in the line of tiny figures. What is it that you ask, Axel? It's simply this, princess. Should Kurik really die and the mists begin to clear, should memories return, and among of them of times I disappointed you, of dark deeds I may have done to make you look at me and see no longer the man you do now, promise me this at least. Promise, princess, you will not forget what you feel in your heart for me at this moment. For what's good a memory is returning from the mist if it's only to push away another? Will you promise me, princess? Promise me to keep what you feel for me this moment always in your heart, and no matter what you see once the mist is gone. I'll promise it, Axel, and no hardship to do so. Words cannot tell how it comforts me to hear you say it, princess. A queer mood you're in, Axel. But who knows how much further is it till the giant's cane? Let's not spend any more time sitting between these great stones. Those children were anxious when we left, and they'll be awaiting our return.
That was chapter 13. And we have one more chapter left before we end today's stream. We can do it. Let's do it. Right. We are gonna end part 3 with this chapter called Gawain's Second Reverie. We are currently reading Kazuo Ishiguro's The Buried Giant, part 3, on the chapter Gawain's Second Reverie. This cursed wind. Is this a storm before us? Horrors will mind neither wind nor rain, only that a stranger sits astride him now, not his old master. Just a weary woman, I tell him, with greater need of saddle than me, so carry her in good grace. Yet, why is she here at all? Does Master Axel not see how frail she goes? Has he lost his mind to bring her to these unforgiving heights? But she presses on as determined as he, and nothing I say will turn them back. So I stagger here on foot, a hand on horse's bridle, heaving this rusty coat. Do we not always serve ladies with courtesy? I murmur to Horace. Would we ride on, leaving this good couple tugging at their goat? I saw them first, as small figures far below took them for those others. See down there, Horace, I said then. Already they have found each other. Already they come. And as though that fellow had took no wounds at all from Brennus. And Horace looked my way thoughtfully, as though to ask, Then, Gawain, will this be the last time we climb this bleak slope together? And I gave no reply, and to stroke gently his neck, though I thought to myself, that warrior's young and a terrible fellow, yet I may have the beating of him, who's to say? I saw something even as he brought down Brennus's man. Another would not see it, yet I did. A small opening on the left for a canny fellow. But what would Arthur have me do now? His shadows still fall across the land and engulfs me. Thank you. Would he have me crouch like a beast awaiting its prey, awaiting its prey, yet where to hide on these bare slopes? Will the wind alone conceal a man, or should I perch on some precipice and hurl down a boulder at them? Hardly the way for a knight of Arthur. I would rather show myself openly, greet him, and try once more a little diplomacy. Turn back, sir. You endanger not just yourself and your innocent companion, but all the good folk of this country. Leave Curate to me, to one who knows her ways. You see me, even now, on my way to slay her. But such pleas were ignored before. Why would he hear me now? He is to come so close, and the bitten boy to guide him to her very door. Was I a fool to rescue that boy? Yet the abbot appals me so, and I know God will thank me for what I did. They have come as surely as they have a child, I said to Horace. So where shall we wait? Where shall we face them? The copse. I remember it then. Strange how the trees grow so lush there, when the wind sweeps all around so bare. The copse will provide covering for a knight and his horse. I will not pounce like a bandit, yet why show myself a good hour before the encounter? So I put a little spur on Horace, though it hardly makes an impression on him now, and and we crossed the high edge of the land, neither rising nor falling, battered all the way by the wind. We were both thankful to reach those trees, even if they grow so strangely. One wonders if Merlin himself had cast a spell here. What a fellow was Master Merlin! I thought once he had placed a spell on death himself, yet even Merlin has taken his path now. Is it heaven or hell he makes his home? Master Axel may believe Merlin a servant of the devil, yet his powers were often enough spent in ways to make God smile. And let it not be said he was without courage. Many times he showed himself to falling arrows and wild axes alongside us. This may well be Merlin's wood, and made for this very purpose, that I may someday shelter here to await the one who would undo our great work of that day. Two of us fell to the she-dragon, yet Master Merlin stood beside us, moving calmly within the sweep of Curic's tail, for how else could his work be done? The woods were hushed and peaceful when Horace and I reached them, even a bird or two singing in the trees, and if the branches stirred quietly, down below was a calm spring day, where at last an old man's thoughts may drift from one ear to the other without causing a tempest. It must be several years now since Horace and I was last in these woods. Weeds have grown monstrous here, and the nettle rightly to spread of a small child's palm stands large enough to wrap around a man's twice over. I left Horace at a gentle spot to chew on what he could, and wandered a while beneath the sheltering leaves. Why should I not rest here, leaning on this good oak? And when it's time they come to this place, as they surely will, he and I will face each other as fellow warriors. I pushed through these giant nettles. Is it for this I have worn this creaking metal? To defend my shins from these feathery stings, until I reach the clearing and the pond, the grey sky above it peeping through. Around its rim 3 great trees, yet each one cracked at the waist and fallen forward into the water. Surely they stood proudly where we were last year. Did lightning strike them, or did they, in weary old age, for the pond's succor, always so near water, so near where they grew, yet beyond reach? They drink all they wish now, and mountain birds nest in their broken spines. Will it be at such a spot I meet the Saxon? If he defeats me, I may have left life to crawl to the water. I would not tumble on, even if the ice would admit me, for it would be no pleasure to grow bloated beneath the armor. And what chance Horace, missing his master, will come tiptoeing through the gnarled roots and drag out my remains? Yet I've seen comrades in battles yearn for water as they lie with their wound open, and watch yet others crawl to the edge of the river or lake, even though they double their agonies to do so. Is there some great secret known only to dying men? My old comrades, Master Bew, longed for water that day as he lay on the red clay of the mountain. There's water here left in my gourd, I told him, but no. He demands a lake of river, but we are far from any such thing. I say, curse you, Gawain, he cries, one last wish. Will you not grant it? And we, comrades, through many bold battles. But these she-dragons all but parted you in two, I tell him. If I must carry you to water, I must have to go under this summer sun, a separate part of you under each arm before we reach to such a place. But he says to me, my heart will welcome death only when you lay me down beside water, Gawain, where I hear its gentle lapping as my eyes close. He demands this, and cares not whether our errands were well done for.
or if his life is given at a good price. Only when I reach down to raise him does he ask, "Who else survives?" And I tell him, "Master Millers is fallen, yet the three of us still stand, and Master Merlin too." And still he asks not if the errand is well finished, but talks of lakes and rivers, and now even of the sea. And it is all that I can do to remember this is my old comrade, and a brave one chosen like me by Arthur for this great task, even as a battle rages down in the valley. Does he forget his duty? I lift him, and he cries out to the heavens, and only to understand the cause of a few small steps, and there we are atop of a red mountain top in the summer heat, an hour's journey even on the horseback to the river. And as I lower him, he talks now only of the sea, his eyes blind now, even when I sprinkle water on his face from my gourd. He thanked me the way I suppose in his mind's eye he stands up ashore. Was it sword or axe finished me? He asked, and I say, "What do you talk of, comrade? It's the she-dragon's tail that met you, and our task is done. But our task is done, and you depart with pride and honor." "The she-dragon," he says. "What become of the she-dragon?" "Oh, but one of our spears rests in her flask," I said, "and now she sleeps." Yet he forgets the errand again, and talks of the sea, and of the boat that he knew as a small boy when his father took him far from the shore on a kind evening. When my own time comes, will I too long for the sea? I think I will be content enough with the soil, and I will not demand the exact spot, but let it be within this country Horace and I spend our years roaming contentedly. Those dark windows, those dark widows of earlier would cackle to hear me and hasten to remind me with what I may share of my plot of earth. Foolish knight! Yet you above all need choose your resting place well, or find yourself a neighbor to the very one you slaughtered. Did they not make some such jest even as they threw mud at Horace's rump? How dare they? Were they there? Can it be this woman now rides in my saddle would say as much if she could hear my thoughts? She talks of slaughtered babes down the foul-aired tunnel, even as I delivered her from the monk's black plans. How dare she? And now she sits on my saddle astride my dear battle horse, and who knows how many more journeys are left to me and Horace. For a while we thought this might be our last, but I had mistaken this good couple for those others. And a while longer we travel in peace, yet even as I lead Horace by the bridle, I must glance back, for surely they are coming, even if we go well ahead. Master Axel walks beside me, his goat forbidding him a steady step. Does he guess why I look back so often? "Sir Gawain, were we not comrades once?" I heard him ask it early this morning as we came out of the tunnel, and I told him to find a boat to go downstream. Yet here he is, still in the mountains, his good wife beside him. I will not meet his eye. Age cloaks us both, and as the grass and weeds cloaks the fields where we once fought and slaughtered. What is it that you seek? What is this goat that you bring?" "Turn back, friends," I said, when they came upon me in the woods. "This is no walk for elderly travellers like you, and look how the good mistress holds her side. Between here and the giant's cane, there's still a mile or more, and the only shelter small rocks behind that one must curl with bowed head. Turn back while you still have enough strength, and I'll see to this goat left in the cane and tethered well." But they both eyed me suspiciously, and Master Axel would not let go of the goat. The branches rustled above, and his wife seated on the roots of the oak, gazing to the pond and the cracked trees stooping to the water, and I said softly, This is no journey for you, for your good wife, sir. Why did you do? Why did you not do as I advised and take the river down out of these hills? We must take this goat we must take this goat where we promised, says Master Axel. A promise made to a child. And does he look at me strangely as he says so, or do I dream it? Horace and I will take the goat, I say. Will you not trust us with this errand? I hardly believe this goat will much trouble Curig, even if devoured whole. Yet she may be a little slowed and lend me an advantage. So give me the creature and turn back the mountain before one or the other of you fall in your own footsteps. They moved into the trees away from me, and I could hear the shapes of their lowered voices, but no words. Then Master Axel comes to me and says, "A moment more for my wife to rest, then we will carry on, sir, to the giant's cairn." I see it useless to argue more, and I also eager to continue on our way, for who knows how far behind are Master Wisdom and his bitten boy.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are done. We're done. We have finished chapter 3. Yay! Okay, we did it. This is a good reading pace. About 2 hours plus. Okay. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I can't believe you spent 3,000 of your channel points onto highlighting your message. I do apologize for making it so expensive. I just never thought that anyone would ever use it. Anyway, yeah. Thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you, DM, for moderation and also the party finder. You can close the party finder now. Yeah. Thank you, Twisty, for moderation. Let's go back. Thank you, King Komodo. I think King Komodo is asleep now. For the you have 18k. Save it for some other stuff, you know. I think I think Twisty has more. I think Twisty has like 60k or something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. I have over 80k. Like, I'm not kidding. I have over 80k channel points for my favorite streamer, who I watch a lot. Right? Twisty has like fucking 60k, right? I don't know. I don't remember. Last time you told me, but I don't remember reading. Piao. Isn't it time for you to go to work? Double 60k. So you have 120, 140k, 138k? Holy shit. Oh yeah, it is! Oh yeah, it is. It's your national day, not mine. How would I know? Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I have like it was just this morning I watched Moon's stream. My favorite streamer, very baldy streamer. I watched Moon's stream this morning and I think I had like 89k. Yeah. Yeah. I could have more. If I could have more if I didn't bet on him losing fights all the time. He's 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 his moderator always put up like, oh, will he win this fight in one try or something like that. I'll be like, nope. He won't. I'll be spamming no. I'm losing my points a lot. Have absolutely no respect or I love Moon, but yeah, it's more funny to see him not succeed. I love Moon so much. I watched him play Landlord Super and build a cement wall for like 2 hours. Okay, like literally. I have a problem. I like soothing voice. Even when he's yelling, it's soothing. The other day, Christy and I were watching Moon's like old VODs on like roleplay and stuff. And then, yeah. And then, Christy sent me like a short video of him, like a compilation of him like just like banging the table. I truly believe that I learned that from him. So, oh my god, I need to find the video again. I need to share it with Ian. It's always 3 times. Pum pum pum. It's always. Oh fine. Where's the pretty sure. I don't know what I'm doing now, but I'm doing something now. Sorry. I should. Yeah. We can finish our variant later for sure. Yeah. I'm like, I've been taking a break from everything basically. I've been taking a break lately on like this content and like on everything. Haven't been feeling the greatest, to be honest, lately, but I try my best. Okay, I try my best. I promise you all I'll try my best. Okay. And yeah. Let's get Piao as well. Alright, Piao, how like have you finished all of them to get the have you finished to get the mounts? I want to get the mount for the Silden subterranean as well. That one is so bad. I only have four diamonds for that one. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Sure. Mm, yeah. Have you done all of it? Yep, over here. Just the normal one, not the super difficult one, okay? Because we just want to get them out. Yeah. But I need to eat first, bro. I'm hungry. Really? I don't know. I don't think I'll buy the pants. I think I'm gonna buy the male version one, and also the top for the female version one, but I won't buy the hat for the female. Like, I don't like the hats. Not crazy about the hats. I like the shoes. That's all. The top, like, yeah, the male version one is nice. Yeah, basically just those, and hopefully I can get the dog, the purple dog. I want the purple dog so much because I really want the purple dog so much because I want to. That's gonna be my ninja minion. Yeah, I got the other one. I just want the other dog. That's all. Yeah. Anyway, I finished reading now. Thank you so much. We'll talk in game. Okay. Oh shit. Thank you so much. Yeah, sure. When let me eat first, and I'll like let me eat and hang out a bit first. Yeah, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with me today, for listening to me read. I'm so sorry I fumbled on words again. English is difficult. I'm trying my best, okay? I'm always trying my best. Um, if everything goes fine, I will finish up the book either tomorrow or Friday around the same time, 1 p.m. or 1:30 p.m. I'm not gonna do it so early because usually I have some work to do in the morning. Other than that, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it, and I thank you so much. It really means a lot to me, each and every one of you who drop by to listen to me. King Komodo, King TC, Piao, Tian, and Christy for helping me moderate and everything. Thank you guys. I love you all so much. I'll see you all soon, okay? Bye bye.
Have you ever had a dream that you could know you want to know
Tell your friends to follow me on Twitch. Bye.